G'day cocktail lovers. If you know me, you know I love to support local distillers, and so that's often what I'm using in my cocktails. If not immediately local, I tend to use a lot of Australian products. For whiskies, I only use like Scotch, Irish, bourbons. Occasionally, I mainly use Australian whiskies. Gins, I will universally use Australian gins, and even rums and brandies. I have a lot of Australian products, along with vermouth and similar things like that as well. But I did get 2 bottles recently from a very independent distiller that's not far away from where I live. They're called the Tiny Bear Distillery. They are historically a gin distillery, and they do some really nice gins. And they have recently branched out into liqueurs. And they do occasionally put out a whiskey. It's their second run of whiskies that I'm aware of that came out. I did actually get one of the 2 whiskies they released, a single malt. This is a 52% ABV. It was a single barrel that they aged, and it's really nice. And they released a few liqueurs, and I may get more of them, but I didn't have a ginger liqueur, and they actually released one that's honey, lemon, and ginger, and I thought, that sounds great. I'm going to get that. Spoiler alert, I did do a taste test. It's nice. But that put in my mind the classic penicillin recipe. A penicillin cocktail will have whiskey and then a ginger syrup, a honey syrup, and lemon juice. I thought, this is ginger, honey, and lemon all together. I can do an improvised version, and so I'm doing essentially an old-fashioned version of a penicillin. Let's call it some old-fashioned penicillin. This is it right here. And I'm using my sexy clear ice. And I always got to throw in a self-promo when I do that. Clear ice is just cool, and this stuff that I have, it's very easy to make. Doesn't take up a lot of freezer space. You don't need that big esky in your freezer or the cooler in your freezer. Secret method that, well, I was actually inspired by the way Uncle Pete makes his clear ice. My method is slightly different. Doesn't take up freezer space, isn't expensive. I'll put a link at the end of the video showing you how to do it. But I want to taste this cocktail. That tastes great. My old-fashioned penicillin. I'll show you how I made it. In a mixing glass, putting 2 ounces or 60 mils of the whiskey of your choice. And then I added 3/4 of an ounce or 22.5 mils of my ginger, honey, lemon liqueur. And then I added 2 dashes of orange bitters. Add ice to the glass, stir that for 20 to 25 seconds to chill and dilute the contents, maybe a bit longer because this is all booze. And then I strain that in a rocks glass over a big chunk of sexy clear ice. Then I floated about a bar spoon or 5 mils of a peated whiskey on the top and used a maraschino cherry on a skewer as a garnish. It is traditional to have a peated whiskey in a penicillin, and I thought doing it as a float would be nice, and it is. It's that first smoky hit you get when you go in, and then all the other flavors come through. It's also traditional to use candied ginger as a garnish, and I couldn't find any. There's probably some somewhere in the house. I couldn't find it, so I went with my old faithful for an old-fashioned, the maraschino cherry. Just going to dive in once more. This is stronger than a penicillin because it's a liqueur rather than non-alcoholic syrups in there. But in terms of actually hitting you in the face, it's not that bad because this is just a delightfully sweet liqueur. Honestly, maybe that's a dangerous thing because it's boozier than an average penicillin, but it doesn't taste that way. But I am enjoying it. And yeah, this falls under another of my recommendations. When you find something interesting, find an innovative way to experiment with it and improvise. And this one, like I said, honey, lemon, and ginger just said, this is the elements in a penicillin. So I thought I just have to put it all in the one drink, and it worked a treat. So if you enjoy me doing experiments, I recommend you do experiments, and I recommend you come back and see whatever the heck crazy thing I do next, because I'm going to do other stuff. I just do. I make stuff up all the time, and it usually works out well. In this case, it did. So I'm going to sit down and enjoy this. I hope you're enjoying yourself wherever you are, and I hope to see you again soon. Until I do see you again, I will say cheers.